This is Darius Oliver, and you're listening to 92.1 KXVS, the voice of Stockton.
KXVS on 92.1. Coming soon.
This broadcast will start in 60 seconds. This broadcast will start in 45 seconds. This broadcast will start in 30 seconds. This broadcast will start in 15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
Welcome on the Sunday 16, 2018, the Vigil show, the Voice of Stockton, 92.1 FM, live with District 5, Christina Fagazzi. Thank you for coming. I know you've been busy all morning with the parade and just meeting people, and I'm sure it's a lot of work for you to run for as a candidate.
Right. No. Well, you figure I'm a full-time high school science teacher. I'm a sitting council member. And I have to run for re-election. So it takes up a lot of time. But I'm honored and blessed to be able to do it. And I love it. I mean, I love every aspect of my job. Even when it's trying at times. It can be difficult.
Okay. You know, for people who don't know what district you're running, but do you know what area that people may not know where area District 5 is? So
District 5, to the north, it runs Harding Way. To the south, Martin Luther King Boulevard. And then to the west, it's Lewis Park and Boggs Track. And then to the east, it actually goes out towards 99 and Farmington and Mariposa Road.
Okay, so you're kind of like almost like in the inner district in the city realm, right?
Yeah, downtown. The oldest part of our city is in my district.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now you got the information. So now I would like to talk about the form, the meaning of the women's lead, a voter. It's an organization that previous game on Delta College. Well, I was kind of pissed off for a while. I went there and I showed up and I asked one of the people that they have an interpreter, and they said, no, we didn't get you one, and I left.
Oh.
So I did not appreciate that, because even the Delta College, they do have that survey. They just took advantage, even though there was a nonprofit organization itself, so they could use that as advantage. But and again, I hope that this let people aware that when you're running for when you're speaking for a democratic democracy and you want to include people in working with disability, working for equal equality, equal right, and blah blah blah, and their actions don't show it. And I want to talk about what have not been said. I'd like to talk about the issues that have not been probably been avoided, and not being really just talk to me, like introducing who you are, blah blah blah. What do you think that the topic that was not been talked about? Go
Right.
ahead.
Well, I would say that there were a couple topics that I thought for sure were going to come up. Before the forum, I did my homework, remember, the teacher and me, and I did this whole binder. And in the binder, I had sections on crime, economic development, budget, which we talked about, taxes, which we didn't, housing, opportunity zones, which is something new that's happening to Stockton and has been federally approved. And then the big one for me is homelessness. And so I thought for sure, because most of the services that are provided to homeless are in District 5, that we would have talked about that. And I don't know, Dustin, did any of the other sessions talk at all about homelessness?
Excuse me. Some kind of touched on it a lot, and basically some had a platform of it, but they didn't really get into depth with it this time like they did a couple years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Because when I ran the last time, we spoke, it was at City Hall. League of Women Voters of San Joaquin held it at City Hall. But I think maybe the supervisors talked about homelessness.
They did more, yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't at all. And I realized that while the city doesn't offer behavioral health, substance abuse programs, social, just the different WorkNet, all the programs that the county offers, but the fact is that we have to work together. And so I was hoping that we could talk about some of the initiatives that are coming forward, some of the work of the nonprofits in the area, but what we as city council could do in order to help with our homeless issue. And so, like I said, I had hoped we could talk about what we could do in terms of sheltering homeless, getting them off the streets, because what is happening is we have a health concern with the number of homeless that are living on the street. We have, because they have to go to the bathroom. They might be using drugs. They might be engaging in, fornication, sexual contact.
Yes.
There's hepatitis, there's syphilis, there's gonorrhea, there's all kinds of things. And then, with the human waste, that's that hepatitis again, falling susceptible to that and other illnesses and diseases. And so, I was hoping we could talk a little bit more about that.
Right. I do believe that there's a lot of things that happen with homeless that have been so much changed that I was talking about yesterday when you brought it up. Like, there's a lot of homeless, people have lost their home, a lot of people lost their job, everybody have substance abuse, some have mental health, and they're homeless, but yet at the same time there's more people have a unique situation that we're kind of combining all group in that particular category. But yeah, we need to kind of separate them on what is the one that we need to work on,
right,
to better themselves.
Well, and some of them don't have any of those issues. They might have lost a job, or they might have come up short on rent, or the person who owns the property might have raised it so they could no longer afford it. So they're living in their cars or in a motel, but they don't have a substance abuse issue or a mental health issue. They just need to have assistance with housing, or maybe training for a new job, something like that. But we have hundreds of people just like that. And I was at an event yesterday. Bags of Hope was having an event. And Bags of Hope, what they do is they provide women with sanitary supplies. So a lot of people don't think about this, but a homeless woman, just like a woman who's not homeless, still has a menstrual cycle. And just think about it. If you don't have the products you need, you're soiling your clothes, you're leaving yourself open to infections. you have to keep yourself clean. And bathrooms are closed, and I understand why a lot of businesses close their bathrooms. But imagine if you're homeless and you have nothing to clean yourself with. And at most places now, they offer the foam to wash their hands, where some people might come in and collect a little of the gel so they could go wherever they need to go to clean themselves. But, I mean, you don't think about those things. So Bags of Hope, Miss Colleen, she hands out cleaning and feminine products to homeless women, which I think is fantastic. It's not something, you know, like I said, we often forget about that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, totally, you know. But I do believe that most of the like, you know, like you said about training, you know, a lot of people don't like the state, like the Department of Rehabilitation. You know, they always bring people in for a new job. They may lose their job, or maybe they got fired because, you know, they downsized it. So it's a lot. We give people a benefit of the doubt. You know, we're trying to see, and yeah, and you say you're right. I mean, women, you know, are, you know, street trafficking. You know, and I think that's a wonderful, positive way of just caring for the community and say, look, there's hope. We want you to, you know, to get a job, you have to be cleaned up. You cannot go away to, you know. You know what I'm talking about.
Right. No, I do, Doug. And so, you know, like I said, we didn't talk at all about homeless. You know, with that, you have to talk about housing. And we talked very briefly about housing. But the fact is, we need to have more transitional places for individuals who, like I said, they might not have a need for a county like behavioral health, but they need a place to live, and they're highly capable of working and earning a living, but they're in between. The other thing is, you look at evictions. An eviction stays on your record longer than a bankruptcy.
Oh yeah, I did not know that. It normally is 10 years. So
well, bankruptcy is 7 years. Eviction is 10.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you think about it. I mean, 10 years to get that eviction, in places in Stockton, well, places everywhere. If you have an eviction on your record, they're not going to rent to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they figured out that you have to go back and pay off whatever you owe. So it's like a repeated cycle, you know. So and then they check, and in order to try and find their address, but to have somebody else's name to have a place and earn their trust, I'm going to pay on time. So yeah, I do agree with what you're saying, and I do believe that they should have some program where they remove tattoo or things like that, to remove the eviction also, because they probably just circumstances, the situation that they need, you know.
Right, like what I was saying. So people who want to raise their rents, they can evict a tenant for any reason. I mean, they could just say, I'm evicting you, and they don't have to give a reason. And then they turn around and they raise rent by like $300, because there are laws that tell you how much you can raise someone's rent. Excuse me. So it just, like I said, it was just one of the topics that I thought we would have discussed. Some of the partnership work. I really believe that we should have a coordinator at city, a homeless coordinator for the city of Stockton, just as the county has a homeless coordinator, because our fire department and police department, I mean, extend quite a bit of resources in tending to the homeless, that, you know, that's not what their job is necessarily.
Yeah, because you know, there's a lot of cutback on social worker, and people are leaving and things like that, and they're really going out and really keep getting everybody help.
Right. Yeah, see, one of my ideas is to send a social worker out with police officer when there is a homeless related call.
Okay.
Because oftentimes, I mean, I know that sometimes I get frustrated with my students, and I'm able to work it out because that's what I've been trained in. But a police officer, you know, we have very new police officers that don't necessarily receive social work training. So if you send a social worker out with the police officer, they can help figure out what's going on, how to best serve that individual, because as much as some people would like it to be, being homeless is not a crime.
That's true. People consider homeless is a crime because it's a nuisance, it's a bother. People are begging.
Now, panhandling, yes,
Yeah.
but just being homeless, it's not a crime.
That's a very good point. You have
So we're talking about homelessness. We're talking to District 5 City Councilwoman Christina Fugazi on the Vigil Show with Doug Vigil. You kind of talked about this a little bit, Thunder and I, about the Twin Tunnels. We'll get into that in a second. But you said the state really hasn't, I think, talked about homelessness a lot. And we see this in Los Angeles County with Skid Row that's been for decades now. And the city council has tried to change stuff to improve it, and it really hasn't. But I think the state needs to kind of step in and give.
Well, and they are.
Okay.
They are. So we have SB 2.
Okay.
It's the Building Homes and Jobs Act. There's actually a number of things. The Veterans and Affordable Housing Bond Act of 2018. No Place Like Home, which the governor signed. And so there are a number of proposals. There's upcoming AB 3171, Homeless Persons Services Block Grant. SB 912, for homeless and housing. It's homelessness and affordable housing programs. So the state is working on it. We just need to get on board, and we need to make sure we are first in line or second in line to make sure that we get that funding here.
I don't think the average person hears that, though, because basically the state is helping, but we don't see it from our point of view, some people.
Yeah,
and also what Justin to piggyback on him, that we're not that aggressive to go after those grants, and I don't know, it's just kind of the delay is inevitable. That's what I'm saying.
Right. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit about the SB2 grant. So 70% of the funds are directed to locals based on the federal community development block grants. And so we get a portion of that money at the city, and then different entities apply for it. So
when you talk about entity, for people that don't know, might not know that, you mean nonprofit?
Yes, so like Gospel Center Rescue Mission, Stockton Shelter for the Homeless, St. Mary's Dining Hall, the Women's Center, Children's Home. I mean, I can go on and on. So they can apply for that money. And so we've had limited funds. The funds actually have been decreasing. So now with this SB2, we hopefully will be getting a larger allocation of money. Again, it's competitive. We need to make sure that we write a very well-written grant and state our case, because we do. I mean, we have a number of nonprofits that are doing excellent work, but it's on such a small scale, unfortunately. I mean, to say that we only have 300 or 400 homeless is not a true assessment. I mean, we have thousands of homeless. Like I said, Bags of Hope, they just did a study to find out how many homeless in Stockton, and I'm going to look up the picture because I don't want to give you misinformation. I don't want to give you fake news or something.
Did the city have their own censorship about regarding what homeless we have on the street now, or the county level?
So the county does the counts.
Okay.
But here I have this is the cities with the highest rate of unsheltered homeless, and for Stockton we have, according to this study, 1,245.
1,245.
Okay. Now, obviously, Los Angeles is the largest. They have over 43,000.
That's a combined. It sounds to me they combine it with San Bernardino.
Yeah, it is county. It's Los Angeles City and county. Okay. So that's a large number. But still, for Stockton, 1,245 people that don't have a place to go to the bathroom, that don't have a place to wash their hands, that don't have a place to shower, that don't have a roof over their head. I mean, they might have some plastic or something like that. That don't have electricity. We can go down the list of things that when you're truly unsheltered, And everybody knows or has seen at some point somebody living in a tent. You can't say, you mean, I don't care what age you are. If you've been, through the slough, up over El Dorado or Center Street or the Crosstown Freeway, actually on Madison. So we had the Cinco de Mayo parade today, and on Madison, right under the Crosstown Freeway, in between Washington and Lafayette, that's where Tent City is right now, so to speak. On each side of the sidewalk, the tents are all lined up.
Okay, let me ask something. Is it really true? I don't know. I heard it from the grapevine, but is it true that there are a lot of children that are also living in the tent, homeless in Stockton? Are they being researched about that too?
There are children that are homeless. The option that many of them have is to go to the Stockton Shelter for the Homeless, where they have a family section to the shelter. But again, there are rules, and it doesn't mean that something couldn't happen and you can no longer stay there, or maybe you don't want to. So let me tell you one reason. I met a father who had his kids, and he had one son and 3 daughters. Okay, so they separate the men from the women. Okay. And one of the daughter was the oldest, then a son, and I think the daughter was like 13 or 14. Then the son was in 5th grade. Then the little daughter was in 2nd grade, and then the smallest one was like 2 or 3 years old. So the father doesn't want to be separated from his daughters. No.
I would be concerned too.
Right. And so in the family shelter, it's often, moms with their kids. But what about the dads with their kids? And they had a dog. You can't have dogs in the shelter. Okay. Even though a lot of homeless do. The dog is a protection. It's a companion, and it's a source of protection. It alerts you when, dogs are hypersensitive. They know when somebody might not be a good person. Unlike, humans, we don't have that.
We don't have that alert sense of judgment of character.
Yeah, and speaking along that, I know it's difficult for people to see what happens during campaign season. And what I mean by that is that what lengths people will go to get elected.
Okay.
Now, I know that sometimes people get upset, let's say at campaign managers, but they're doing their job. Their job is to get their candidate elected. But I also know that there are things sometimes that are said. Social media seems to be a place where individuals feel comfortable saying whatever they want about whomever they want, whether it's true or not. And that's really hard to see because, people have families and they have jobs. And I mean, it's not something I do, even though some people have said it is. I would beg to differ. I always try to talk about myself, what my promises are. And my promises are things like honoring the process, being fair, being inclusive, doing my due diligence, like this binder, doing my homework, those kind of things. I don't say I'm going to cut taxes, but speaking of taxes real quickly, let's talk a little bit. We mentioned the twin tunnels, but we didn't talk about drought and water and our water bills and how our water bills have gone up. And the fact that we still have that drought surcharge on our bill, even though we're no longer in a drought, I'm like, why aren't we getting rid of that?
In other words, they haven't removed that.
No, we need to get rid of that.
Yes.
Because we want people to use water, obviously, but we're going to tax you for something that isn't even happening anymore. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think people have learned to conserve water. I would hope so. Mm-hmm. But I noticed my bill has gone up during the drought. My bill was anywhere from $23 to $28 a month.
Wow, that's
yeah.
big.
And now my bill is averaging about $32 a month. And that's 2 adults and 2 big dogs. But I'm like, why are we, taxing on this drought surcharge? I just think that needs to go. But anyway, I know I kind of jumped around.
But it's definitely true because a lot of people do not go back and change what put it on the council, and it's never going to be removed. It has to be a process of moving and adding and removing, and it takes a long time. That once you add something, it's never going to take away.
No.
So that's the reality of life. Do you have anything to say?
No, I was going to maybe move on to the next thing I wanted to ask Christina. One of the topics they asked you, or questions they asked you, was about CalPERS. And I don't know a lot of people know what that is.
Okay.
Because it involves the state employees, basically. And
Hold on. When you think about
PERS.
how you spell it?
PERS.
Okay, CalPERS. Okay.
Which is basically the pension for state employees, right, Christina?
Yes, it is. So, when you work somewhere, one of the benefits you get is usually tied to your retirement. And I know that I'm part of CalSTRS, which is the state teachers retirement system. But we have to put quite a bit of money into retirement. But here's the deal, something I didn't bring up. People are living longer.
True.
Okay?
Yeah, they are.
Who'd have thought that people would live to be 80, 90, 100 years old?
The retirement age is going up.
Yes. And that's because we have better health care. People are
maybe longer.
Yeah. There's a lot of factors involved in longevity. But you're still paying them. And, my dad retired, and I would say this lightly, he semi-retired at 62 because that's when he could start pulling out his Social Security. My mom waited until she was 70. And my mom still worked. Both my parents still work. But my mom waited because she wanted to get a larger, Social Security check.
Yeah.
My dad was like, listen, I don't know if I'm even going to make it to 70. So let me get some of this money now that I paid into.
Yeah, that's a good. Some people feel like like my dad did the same thing too. My mom waited her to get a full pension, and my dad thinks she's not going to be able to make it. A lot of people have the idea of fearing that that when it comes to insurance, Social Security and your pension combined, sometimes it kind of cuts back on their Social Security as well.
Right. So one of the things that we talked about was CalPERS and its effect on our city finances. So we have the long range financial plan, and we were going to dip below our 5% reserve. But for this current fiscal year, as of the second quarter, we already had 6 million. That was through vacancy savings and increased revenue. So 2.4 million in increased revenue and 2.6 million in vacancy savings or whatever. So 6 million, excuse me. So actually I said that's 5 million. It was 3.1. Sorry for all these numbers.
That's
but
okay.
the point is this, is at the end of the 2017-2018 budget, at the end of the budget year, we are on track to have almost 40 million in rollover. But we have to make a payment for the retirement system that is almost 40 million. So those are things, when you look at our operating budget of 228 million, that includes what we have to pay for pensions.
So the people that probably kind of lost track right now, I got confused already. But that's okay. But the pension is when you go to the meeting and when you're talking about these type of retirement, CalPERS, and everything, you're talking for the city employee, right?
Right.
So when the city employee is getting that particular fund that they're gonna have to receive at the end of their retirement. So are they gonna have to? Are you guys budgeting what year of age? Are they gonna be able to retire early or what number?
Well, it depends on their job category. So, for example, for a teacher, once you reach 30 years as a teacher, you get the higher. It's called multiplying factor.
Okay.
So that's when I could receive like the highest amount of my retirement. Now, let's say I stopped teaching at 24 years. Let's say I stopped teaching this year.
Okay.
The amount, and then I don't retire till I'm 65, but the amount I would get would be less.
Okay.
Okay.
It makes sense.
Now, people that are in public safety, they have a much more
You're talking about
difficult,
police officer
and fire.
and fire. Okay.
Okay, so they have a lower limit for that multiplying factor.
Okay.
Yeah, so while they may retire from that job, it doesn't mean that they can't go get another job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I think about retirement, I think that we have to offer a cadre of options. So you have your retirement that, let's say you put 6% in and the city puts in 3%.
Okay.
But
90%.
huh?
You're adding 6% and 3%.
Yeah, so let's just say that that's what it is.
Okay.
Okay. So the other thing is, though, there's nothing to say that you can't get into an IRA, a Roth. For me, it would be a 403B. Another retirement option where you could put money into another basket. Or you might want to save your money and get into, real estate or something like that. So, for example, I have my Cal STIRS. I have my retirement, my IRA. I have a regular IRA. I have a Roth IRA where I take money out of my checking account every month. It's not pre-taxed. A Roth is not pre-taxed because I'll be able to pull that money out tax-free when I retire. But I put in the maximum every year into that. Then I have my public employee retirement. It's another retirement plan where I put in additional money. And then I have, I own my house and another house.
Okay.
So what I've essentially done is I have diversified myself as much as possible. I'm not depending on one form of retirement. And so I think that's what we kind of have to offer employees is that, we're going to give you this amount and then you have these other programs to take advantage of.
Okay, now when we're talking about city staff right now, when we talk about just recently the salary setting commission came and announced that to receive you had an increase of 23,000 but no benefit.
Oh no, for city council members?
Yes.
Yeah, per the charter,
For the charter.
we can't receive benefits.
Okay. Why is that? Because it's a job. Because when you have a title,
But it's so the city charter
your
is
charter.
law, is our law.
Okay.
We have to abide by it. So it's what the people voted and decided upon. We could go in and change it, but we'd have to put it out to the people to vote on.
Okay.
So per the charter, the mayor who's full-time gets benefits, not retirement though, because it's a temporary job. And council members do not get retirement or medical benefits, anything like that.
Okay, so when the students, okay, now I know the meeting 2 months ago, the salary commission passed it and they approved it, the salary setting of 23,000 with no benefit. Then when I think it was last meeting, you guys turned it down.
Well,
Why is that?
It was voted 3-2.
3-2, okay.
So Councilwoman Lenz and I voted no.
Okay.
And some of the reasoning
Okay.
behind people really wanting the increase was the fact that they want to attract qualified candidates.
Okay.
But I'm almost the opposite mindset. I'm saying I'll do the job for free.
Okay.
Because that's how much I care about my community. But I'll tell you, it is a lot of work. I put in as many hours as I do teaching, I probably put into my work as a council member.
Okay, so basically what you do, okay, so now the salary setting is still set at 17,000, right?
16.5 or something like that. But it's going to be coming back on a council meeting because there was only 5 of us there.
Okay.
And Councilwoman Loftus and Vice Mayor Holman were not there.
Okay.
And they should have the opportunity to vote on it.
Okay.
As per the members of city council that were there.
Okay, I just want to give I just want to also, the reason why I'm bringing that up, to let the viewer think that people who run for a candidate for city office, the money is not even, shouldn't be a factor, because you can't rely on that money for 17,000, and still have your regular job.
Right.
And yet, and relying on 17,000, it's not a full, like you said, it's a temporary job, it's a full time. They have to see that the reality that they're not going to get paid $100,000 or anything like that.
Even though people think that's what we do get paid.
But so now I like to listen to the fact that it's really, to me, it's ridiculous where people have to fight and argue and kind of slander each other up with that particular money that is not even worth it,
Dustin, what do you think about the pay rate?
It's an interesting conversation because, as you mentioned, retirement does go up nowadays, and every year it seems like more and more is getting older. So the pay rate's going to be interesting to see where we go in the next couple of years.
Well, but for city council members, we don't get retirement.
Yeah.
So it's 16,500.
Which is.
Would you run for office for 16,500?
No.
But don't you care about your community?
Yeah, I would run for office, but 16,000. Yeah, I wouldn't take that money because it's how you can even basically survive nowadays with that.
No, I mean, but here's the deal. It's like what I do is, I go to a lot of events.
Yes, you do.
And I don't use council money or something like that. I use the money I get paid for as a council member. So when Leslie, when somebody calls me and says, "Oh, Christina, will you attend this event? You don't mind paying, do you?" I'm like, "Of course I don't mind paying." I donate money to different organizations all the time just because there are so many people doing really good work in the city that as a council person, I can't do what they do. So me showing my support by giving them part of the money that I receive as a council member is easy for me.
Well, that's very generous. I mean, that's something that people have to see who is into themselves and who is into being a servant of the public. And just hearing you from the horse's mouth, do what you do with the money and just donate it back to the community. And that is a person should have been doing that. Now relying on $16,000 and running with sweat and blood and tears, to me it's worth. But if you love your community, I think that's the only thing you need to
right.
do.
Well, some individuals would like to do this full time. And listen, I could fill up every hour of every day with something council related. I could be researching these different grants. I could be collaborating with my board of supervisor who is full time, on working on the homeless and housing. I could be meeting with Peter Ragsdale from HUD. I could be going to the Capitol, talking, to the governor and to some of the other members of both the Assembly and Senate. I mean, there are things I could be doing. But again, if I was to be full-time for 4 years, and let's say, then after that 4 years, then what?
Okay.
And I love being a teacher.
I guess you can't take the teacher out of you.
No.
That's awesome, because I think that you are the leader anyway, regardless. When you're a teacher, I remember my own teacher too. And it brings leadership when you're on public and people watch you see what you do outside their classes. It shows them the contribute what you're doing and putting it into the community. And I know that you had a program that you bring one of your students and go to the organization and volunteer.
Right.
That's awesome.
I started a Giving Back Matters Community Service Club. And so my students are doing everything and anything in the community. And I've talked to other teachers at other schools, and they're doing the same thing. I mean, they're doing a great job. Because if we don't teach our children how to give back to the community that's helping raise them, they might not ever do that as an adult.
That's true. It makes sense. You're right. So let me ask you this: what else have the teacher? We're already done with that subject. But when at the forum that they haven't also didn't talk about, there was another one.
Crime.
Okay, that's the.
So you know, we've talked about the statistics of crime, the fact that shooting-related deaths are down, but there's still a lot of shootings. And so we have different programs. We have Operation Ceasefire. We have Peacekeepers. We have, the Office of Violence Prevention. Sorry, I'm going so fast, Doug. But when we look at our statistics, I know that a number of individuals have personally told me in my district and beyond that they often don't call police. And I said, listen, we can't help right the wrongs unless we know about them. And so I asked a question, I posed a question to my students that just about broke my heart, because I asked them, how they felt about police, and they didn't want to, really talk about it. But I said I wanted them to know that the police are here to help us. And while, you might have had a negative experience, you can't transfer that to a whole group. Even though they say, one bad apple can ruin the whole bushel. It's the same in teaching, nursing. I mean, there's not a profession out there where, some are really great and some maybe aren't so great.
Yeah, but I think to make the point, like, there's so much stereotype on police officers that because when they approach an individual, they immediately think that they did something wrong. And so they're intimidated by authority. So and we need to have that. Like we were talking yesterday, like when police officer, like authority, they'll like raise your hand, they'll hold their hand up. Common sense, the norm will be like they'll do everything what the police officer will do. But yeah, when people are not acting the way that normal people would do it, that running away or not giving direction, then that's not. Right. They should be training.
We have to realize that we come from an extremely diverse city. We're number 2 in the nation, I think, for diversity. And here's the deal: it's that there are some cultural differences between us. So my students. So if I have students from out of respect, where I was raised, you look at me when I'm talking to you. I came a strong Italian grandmother that was like, you look at me when I talk to you, because I want to make sure you know what I'm saying. But in the Southeast Asian community, it doesn't work that way.
So they have the head down.
Yes.
Okay.
And
more like a submissive look.
It's out of respect. And so we need to have something called cultural competence. And you might say, hey, we're all in America. Yes, we are. But the morals and values and the way we are raised and taught at home, it's different depending on your culture oftentimes.
Okay, let me ask you that. We're about 7 minutes at a time. Have we discussed anything that we might not cover before we end our show?
Well, actually, there's a lot of things I could talk about. But I guess I would like to go back to, negativity.
Okay.
In this city, we have enough negativity that I really don't like to see it around campaign time. I think that individuals need to talk about what they're bringing to the table not what somebody else isn't. And the funny thing is I'm not trying to go biblical, but there is a passage in the Bible that says, you need to get the speck out of your eye before you try to get the speck out of mine.
Take the plank out of your eye.
Yeah. So
that's true. That's totally true.
I'm like, I know that individuals, are trying hard, but I really think that people should put their best foot forward always. I try to treat people as kindly as possible, and I know, like I said, during campaign season, people get a little crazy. We call it silly season for a reason.
Yeah.
And I know I've spoken to most candidates. I mean, I've spoken to everybody in the District 1 race and the District 3 race. Excuse me. In my race, I haven't in the Board of Supervisors. I've spoken to 2 in one race and 1 in the other race. And it's just tough, because if we're all here for the right reasons, which is to better our community, why do we have to trash somebody else in order to make our community better?
You're right. I totally agree with what you're saying, because people will look at. I'm a person that will watch people that under the radar. They get elected when people are not vocal on attacking, because they get the vote out. Like for example, last year Lynn was out of the picture. We didn't hear anything about what we had. Other people that were attacking each other, and all of a sudden right there, Lynn was already in counting. She kept a low profile. So people who are on a low profile do get elected because they keep their campaign, they focus, and not worry about what other people are saying.
Right.
And I do agree with what you're saying, that when it gets stir crazy, and it definitely, I got my own campaign. I try to, focus on myself and not worry what other people think, and just working on this, and whatever happened, and move on.
Right.
And then from there, and I do agree with what you're saying. But at the same time, when you see social media, you don't know if it's true or not.
No.
And when you try to put fact into the media, it doesn't show. You can't read what you read. Also, you can't believe what you read. Also, you can't believe what you hear. You can't believe, but you have to go what they say.
Right.
And what they say.
Well, and their action. Their action.
The same thing, right? And your action speaks louder than your word. But when your words start trashing people, it shows your character. Mm-hmm. And when you show your character, it shows that you have no respect for your fellow people.
Right. Well, yeah. and I sit there and I sometimes think, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
And it's like I said, it's so it sucks the energy out of you. It really does. I remember it must have been like one of the first times I went out walking for myself for my campaign, and somebody started yelling at me. And I'm not talking about this time. I'm talking about 4 years ago, 4.5 or 5 years ago, when I ran and started campaigning. And this person just kind of chewed me up and spit me out. And I was like, whoa, I don't even know you. And I was like, I don't even know you. All this venom. I'm like, I just wanted to introduce myself. That was it. You can throw my paper away or whatever, or tell me thank you, have a nice day. Anybody that comes to my door, I'm never rude to them.
Wow, but that's the thing about campaigning. Local and whatever district is a local thing there. But anyway, just leave it on that note. Can we leave on a positive note, Christina?
Yes, I just want to thank you, Doug, for having me today. I also want to thank all the candidates who are running. Everyone in my district, and 3 and 1. I think that we really, the city is on the right track. I think that there is still a lot of work that needs to be done, obviously. But I think that we've got some good momentum and some good ideas. And like I said, I just want to thank people for wanting to be part of the process. And I want to encourage everybody, please vote. Absentee ballots are coming out this week. Election day is June 5th. And don't flip a coin to vote. Do your homework. And if you don't know something, it's okay. You can skip that item and go to the next one. But there's information readily available. I know you can reach out to me directly. You can at Christina.Fugazi at StocktonCA.gov. I also have a website, www.ChristinaFugazi.com. And you can reach out through Doug.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for watching the Vigil show. I really thank Christine, my guest, Christine Fugazi, Com65, and also just letting anybody out that all the other candidates are welcome to come to my show as well. There's no bias.
I recommend it.
Definitely come to me, and I'll let you win. Okay, so feel free to contact me. So everybody have equal time. Okay, thank you so much. And plug is free. Okay. So anyway, you get a free publicity. Anyway, thank you so much on a Sunday. Happy Cinco de Mayo, and thanks for coming.
Yep.
And thanks for watching. Thanks so much.